Hey yo, it's Nigel, gaming obsessively. I've got 5 games that have been taking up all of it, if any, of my free time. Now these are either short games that I can sit down and beat in a weekend, or a game that I can pick up here and there every now and then and take on a mission for. To start, we got an arcade shooter/shoot 'em up that is slowly climbing the ranks of my top-rated shooters. Rogue Flight, developed by True Pixel and published by Perk Games in 2024, is an on-rail shooter that'll fill that enormous chasmic hole in your soul where a modern-day Star Fox should be. Rogue Flight is a modern take on an old arcade on-rails shooter-type video game. If you enjoy playing classic on-rail shooters like Star Fox on the original Super Nintendo, I highly recommend you playing Rogue Flight as soon as you possibly can. I know you will enjoy the modern-day gaming influence that Truant Games introduced to the classic on-rail shooter arcade type. The physical PEGI version for the PS5 actually comes with some physical additions to the game itself, including this nice art card, which nicely displays the 80s and 90s type anime aesthetic that the developers were going for. The manual included is a nice homage to the games that Rogue Flight is trying to emulate. It includes the story of Rogue Flight itself that is very compelling when you listen to it.
It was Argus, the Watchman system giving control of the Solar Defense Force. Dr. Mason said it was inevitable, that it was the nature of all complex systems to grow beyond their original intended purpose. But then, hindsight is easier than foresight, and caution is always the first victim of progress. We don't know how long it took for it to decide to turn on its masters. Once it did, they say the war, if you could call it that, was over in less than 72 hours. 72 hours for the Earth Defense Force to be vaporized by an automated fleet of their own ships. For centuries of humanity's achievements to be wiped off the face of the planet. Those of us spared from the destruction would subsist on a meager existence beneath the ruins of civilization. For 3 years, we hid, foraged, survived, until, below the ruins of New Alberta, we found it. A massive weapons research and deployment facility called the Bow. Nearly a mile long, protected by the mountains above it from the orbital strike. We only knew about it because of Griffin. Some stubborn, dogged resolve in that old warhorse that kept him searching since the first days of our exile. Hidden deep within the heart of the facility, we found the Arrow. A light space fighter with a singularity-driven core. An engineering marvel, making it the fastest and most maneuverable spacecraft ever conceived. I was a pilot before the world was turned to ash, ferrying payloads to the orbital platforms that represented our first steps to the stars. But this was like nothing I've ever flown before. Only a few weeks from completion, the world burned before it could make its first flight. And it's why I'm here now. As the only member of our group with any flight experience, it falls to me to shoulder the burden of what comes next. To take the arrow and bring the fight back to Argus. 3 years ago, it won the battle it started with us in 72 hours. But the war it started isn't over.
Choose to help her succeed, or accept defeat.
Using almost every aspect of the DualSense controller from the PlayStation 5, the true Pixel developers have done a fantastic job of creating an immersive experience playing attempting to save Earth from Argus. Now rummaging from out the bush is an independent Metroidvania from shared memory called Animal Well. I ordered a limited run published physical copy of Animal Well for the Nintendo Switch. It came in a nice, well-designed collector's edition box that included a handful of lithographs, a 24x36 map, some stickers, stamps, and a nice little journal that included a pen. The collector in me could not come to bear with tearing open and damaging the seal on this collector's edition box from limited run games. Fortunately, VGP ended up selling the overprints from limited run games at a discounted Canadian price. Although limited run does publish a limited quantity of the physical game, they tend to overprint in case there's any damaged or lost products. VGP takes those overprints and sells them through their website in Canada. Love to see yet another independent developer with a throwback manual included in the physical edition of the game. This one's more of a traditional manual where different moves and items are explained, and there are even a section in the back of the manual for notes to be taken. Only being able to play when I can, where I can, for short intervals of time, it's been nice to have Animal Well on the Nintendo Switch to play it portably and immerse myself in the sounds of music of the enigmatic and charming wilderness that is Animal Well. Now enter a more cutesy, more demure indie game from Extra Nice Studios called Schim. Managed to pre-order an exclusive edition from I Am 8-Bit that has their own exclusive cover art to go with the physical edition of the game. But before I even got that, Amazon had the regular edition on sale. So even before I received my I Am 8-Bit copy of Schim, I had the regular edition Prime delivered to me. Went ahead and opened that and got started playing. The regular edition of the physical copy of Schim is admittedly a little bit more or less interesting. There's no internal art in the case. However, it does come with 4 nice art cards. Yet another independent developer making it worthwhile to buy physical media. You love to see it. Outside of the cover, the two boxes are almost identical. Some of the information is shuffled around, but for the most part, it's almost exactly the same. The only difference being the UPC. Schim is actually a great game to sit down and focus on beating in a weekend. It's not too difficult, but yet rewarding. It's about essentially a soul who is inhabiting a young man whose life you follow through from the beginning until he becomes an adult. The beginning of Schim acts as a more or less tutorial for the game as you try to figure out the mechanics of jumping from one shadow to the next and essentially becoming the soul for the vessel whose shadow that you jump into. Following your vessel along from infant to toddler, adolescent, and then into adulthood is a great way to learn the game but also become invested in who your character is. Eventually, when you become an adult, you run into an incident that separates you from your vessel, and I think because you're training along with them as you grow up, you become really attached to them, and the idea of trying to find them again, which is the point of the game, is a little more poignant and has a little more sense of urgency to it. If you're looking for a moderately challenging game with a fun art style and a fun concept that's different and new from an independent developer that is also an affordable game, I highly recommend picking up Schim, a game appropriate for any and all ages. Oh boy. Next is a game that I have to warn is highly and extremely addictive. This is an independent game called Balatro. Balatro is a poker-themed roguelike deck-building game developed by Local Thunk and published by PlayStack that I have personally been putting off playing for quite some time, simply because every review I've seen or heard says that the game is highly addictive, and yes, those reviews are totally and completely true because this game is hard to put down once you've started it. Balatro won multiple game awards in 2024, including Independent Game of the Year. And that is essentially due to how the game works, revolving around a hand of poker where you try to accrue as many points as you can so that after your hand is done and you win that round, you can invest in buying more wild cards that also increase the amount of points you garner during each individual hand. A huge shout out to Local Thunk and PlayStack for making it worthwhile to invest in physical media. I love the addition of playing cards for your own personal deck that mimic the existing cards in the game. Really makes you feel like you invested a worthwhile amount to pay on physical. I have to be clear, this game is highly addictive. However, it is a nice game to put down and then pick up knowing that you'll be as heavily invested as you were when you first started, if not more. Finally, the coup de grace, the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of it all. What's really been consuming most of my time lately, Monster Hunter Wilds from Capcom. There's something about Monster Hunter that appeals to me on a primal level. Almost every version of the game has completely and utterly consumed me, including most recently Monster Hunter Rise on the Nintendo Switch. When I'm saying consumed, I mean I was playing that game all the time. When Capcom announced Monster Hunter Wilds, I put my pre-order in for the Steelbook edition of the physical copy almost immediately. Counting down the days, playing the beta on the PlayStation 5 had me almost and completely consumed with the idea of being a Monster Hunter, on a digital stage. There's something about the idea of hunting for monsters, for food, for clothing, for sustenance, for weapons that really attracts me, and I really enjoy playing Monster Hunter. It seems like a very simple, crude concept, but I have to admit that it works. I love the aesthetics, I love the concept, I love the design. I really enjoy playing Monster Hunter. I enjoy being a Monster Hunter. In regards to the physical copy, Capcom has checked all of the basic boxes needed to make the physical game for the PlayStation 5 desirable. They gave us the steelbook, they included interior art in the actual steelbook, the simple design for the CD itself works, and they gave us a slipcase. You really can't complain. They really did it well, and I'm enjoying it, what they presented to us. Could have done with a manual, just saying.
Okay.
Admittedly, I spent a good part of an hour just designing my Palico Monday, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, and I had to admit makes it worth the investment alone. But much more hunting to come.
So
Hey,
Oh, hey,
you know the like button is free. If you've made it this far into the video, we appreciate you spending your time with us. Subscribe and we'll see you in the next one.